Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking into the daily habits of successful people and how you can use these habits to improve your English fluency. And to do that, we've got some really cool sources lined up. We've got a few YouTube videos to pull from. One is from Readers Books Club, and they talk about the book Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. We've also got one from Motivation Radio talking of Ankur Warikoo and some of his tips for success. We've got one from Ankur Warikoo himself. And last but not least, we've got one from Brian Tracy. So with those four sources, we've got a lot of different angles to look at success. And what I'm hoping is that by the end of this deep dive, we'll have some really good actionable advice for our listeners so that they can improve their English fluency.
It's amazing how much of an impact our daily habits actually have on our lives. You know, those small decisions that we make each day, they really do accumulate and shape the outcomes that we experience.
Yeah, I was thinking about that quote that Brian Tracy mentions in his video. He says that Aristotle said that 95% of everything you do is the result of habit. And it really is true when you think about it.
It really is. And Brian Tracy goes on to say that good habits are hard to form, but they're easy to live with. But bad habits are very easy to form, but hard to live with.
So let me ask you this then. Let's bring it to the world of English learning. What would be a bad habit that someone might have in English learning that they could replace with a good habit?
Oh, that's a good question. One thing that comes to mind would be maybe constantly translating in your head. So instead of thinking in English directly, they're always having to go back to their native language and translate everything.
Right. So they're not thinking in English.
Exactly. And that can really slow down your progress and fluency.
So what would be the good habit to replace that with?
Well, the good habit would be to try to think directly in English as much as possible. Now, obviously, this takes time and effort.
Sure.
But it can really pay off in the long run.
It's kind of like building that muscle memory.
Exactly.
Instead of having to go back and do those extra steps, you can just...
Yeah, you're training your brain to think in English automatically.
Right.
Which will make you a much more fluent and confident speaker.
I like that a lot. Now, Brian Tracy also talks about investing 3% of your income in personal development. Do you find that to be true?
I do. I think it's one of the best investments that you can make in yourself. Because when you invest in yourself, you're essentially investing in your future.
What? And so how would you say that relates to English learning specifically?
Well, I think learning English itself is a form of personal development. You know, you're gaining a valuable skill that can open up all sorts of opportunities.
Right.
So by investing in language learning resources or courses or tutors, you're essentially investing in your personal and professional growth.
I like that. Now, Brian Tracy talks about 7 pillars of personal development. And I was wondering how we can apply these to language learning. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. Actually, when I was reviewing these, I saw the tie-ins immediately.
Okay.
So, for example, the first pillar is personal skills. And that can be anything from being a good listener to problem solving to having strong work ethic. All of these skills are valuable in any field.
Sure.
But they're especially important when learning a new language because you need to be able to communicate effectively and work through any challenges that you face.
And what about personal growth?
Well, that's all about stepping out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself to grow and learn new things.
Which is essential in language learning, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You're not going to become fluent if you're not willing to push yourself to try new things and make mistakes.
So, for example, that might be, trying to have a conversation with a native speaker, even though you're feeling nervous or unsure of yourself.
Exactly. Or it could be signing up for a language exchange program where you can practice with someone who's learning your native language.
That's great. What about personal power?
Well, I see personal power as surrounding yourself with supportive people who can help you achieve your goals. And when it comes to language learning, this could mean finding a tutor or a language partner, or even joining an online community of English learners where you can get support and motivation from others who are going through the same thing.
That's kind of like building your dream team.
Yes, exactly.
Having those people around you who can cheer you on and help you when you need it.
It makes a huge difference.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
What about personal improvement?
Well, personal improvement is all about developing good habits and a positive attitude.
And those are both essential for language learning.
Absolutely. If you want to become fluent, you need to be willing to put in the work and practice regularly. And you need to have a positive attitude about your ability to learn and improve.
I like that. What about personal empowerment?
Personal empowerment is all about believing in yourself and your ability to achieve your goals.
And how does that relate to language learning?
Well, it means having confidence in your ability to learn and speak English even if you make mistakes along the way. You need to believe that you can do it and that you're capable of becoming fluent.
That's great. I like that. What about personal analysis?
Well, personal analysis is all about taking a step back and honestly assessing your strengths and weaknesses.
And how does that apply to language learning?
Well, it means identifying the areas where you excel and the areas where you need more work.
So, for example, maybe you're really good at reading and writing in English, but you struggle with speaking and listening.
Exactly. Once you know your strengths and weaknesses, you can focus your efforts on improving the areas where you need the most help.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, and the last one is personal goals.
Yes, personal goals are essential for anything that you want to achieve in life.
And how do we apply that to language learning?
Well, it means setting specific, measurable, achievable, and time-bound goals for your English fluency.
So instead of saying, I want to be fluent in English, you would say something like, I want to be able to hold a 10-minute conversation with a native speaker in 6 months.
Exactly. The more specific your goals are, the more likely you are to achieve them.
It's about breaking it down into those manageable steps, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then you can track your progress and celebrate your successes along the way.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. So we've talked about the 7 pillars of personal development and how they can be applied to language learning. But I'm curious, what stands out to you as the most important thing for our listeners to remember when it comes to improving their English fluency?
I think the most important thing is to be proactive. Don't just wish that you could speak English better. Take action and make it happen.
I like that. Take action and make it happen.
Exactly. Set goals, make a plan, and get to work. And don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way, because that's how you learn and grow.
That's great. Now, Ankur Warikoo talks about some other really great insights that I think are relevant here. One thing he says is that nothing worthwhile comes easily.
That's so true.
And that really resonated with me,
Right.
because I think a lot of times people think that they can just learn English overnight, or that there's some magic pill that they can take that will make them fluent. But the reality is that it takes time and effort and dedication.
It does. Just like anything else worth achieving in life, you have to be willing to put in the work.
And you have to be consistent.
Yes, consistency is key. You can't just study for a few hours one day and then expect to be fluent. You need to make it a habit to practice regularly.
And to embrace the challenges.
Yes, the challenges are part of the process, and they're actually what help you learn and grow.
I like that. Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about being proactive versus reactive. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he means that proactive people take initiative and they make things happen, while reactive people wait for things to happen to them.
And how does that apply to language learning?
Well, it means that if you want to improve your English, you need to be proactive and seek out opportunities to practice and learn. Don't wait for someone to come to you and offer to help you. Go out and find those opportunities yourself.
So, for example, that might mean joining an English conversation group, or finding a language exchange partner, or even just watching English movies and TV shows.
Exactly. There are so many different ways to be proactive about learning English.
And it's about taking control of your learning.
Yes, exactly. You're not just a passive recipient of information. You're an active participant in the learning process.
I like that. Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about the power of routine. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think routine is incredibly important for success in any area of life, but it's especially important for language learning, because when you have a routine, it helps you to be consistent with your practice.
Right.
And consistency is key when it comes to learning a new language.
He gives the example of dedicating Mondays to shooting his videos for his channel, no matter what. And he explains how doing that consistently allowed his brain to develop the processes and the machinery to be able to shoot videos very efficiently.
That's a great example. And it shows how powerful routine can be. When you do something consistently, your brain gets better at it.
Right.
And it becomes more automatic.
So in the context of language learning, if you were to establish a routine of practicing English every day at the same time, eventually it would become second nature to you.
Exactly. It would become part of your daily routine.
And you wouldn't even have to think about it.
Right. It would just be something that you do.
That's a great point. Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about the importance of doing important tasks rather than urgent tasks. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a really important distinction to make, because often the things that feel urgent aren't actually that important in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
While the things that are important might not feel urgent.
So, for example, checking your email might feel very urgent, but it's probably not as important as spending time with your family or working on your personal goals.
Exactly.
And how does that relate to language learning?
Well, it means that you need to make sure that you're prioritizing your English practice. Don't let it get pushed aside by other things that might feel more urgent but are actually less important.
So, for example, if you have a goal of practicing English for 30 minutes every day, make sure that you're actually scheduling that time into your day. And don't let other things get in the way.
Exactly. Treat your English practice like any other important appointment.
That's a great point. Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about the win-win mentality. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he means that it's important to approach every interaction with the mindset of creating a win-win situation.
So instead of trying to get ahead at someone else's expense, you're looking for ways to benefit both yourself and the other person.
Exactly.
And how does that apply to language learning?
Well, I think it means that you should look for opportunities to collaborate with other English learners.
So, for example, you could join a language exchange group or find a tandem partner
Wow.
where you can help each other practice your languages.
Exactly.
And in that way, you're both benefiting from the interaction.
Yes. And you're also building relationships and making new friends.
Which is always a good thing.
It is.
Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about the importance of understanding others. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's one of the most important things that you can do in life, whether you're learning a new language or not. When you take the time to understand other people, you build stronger relationships, and you create a more positive and harmonious world.
And how does that apply to language learning?
Well, I think it means that you should focus on listening to what other people are saying and trying to understand their perspective, even if you don't agree with them.
And it also means that you should be respectful of other cultures and languages.
Yes, absolutely. The more you understand about other cultures and languages, the more well-rounded and informed you'll be.
And the better you'll be able to communicate with people from all over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Now, Ankur Warikoo also talks about the importance of teamwork. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think teamwork is essential for success in any field, but it's especially important in language learning because you can't do it alone.
Right.
You need the support of others.
And he uses the example of how he has a whole team of people who help him to create his videos, even though he's the one who's on camera.
That's a great example. It shows that even the most successful people need the help of others.
And in the context of language learning, that might mean finding a tutor or a language partner, or joining a study group, or even just talking to your friends and family about your goals and asking for their support.
Exactly. The more support you have, the more likely you are to succeed.
That's a great point. So we've covered a lot of ground here. But I think the key takeaway is that success is not just about talent or luck. It's about having the right habits and the right mindset.
Exactly.
And those are things that anyone can develop with time and effort.
It's true. Anyone can achieve success if they're willing to put in the work.
I like that. Well, that's a great place to leave it for now. But we've got some more great insights to share in the next part of this deep dive. So be sure to tune in next time to learn even more about the daily habits of successful people and how you can apply them to your English learning journey.
I'm looking forward to it.
So we've got this incredible framework of habits and mindsets that successful people use to achieve their goals. And we've seen how these same principles can be applied to something as specific as learning English. Now let's dive into some practical examples and stories that really bring these concepts to life.
Okay.
What do you have for us?
I think you'll find the story of Ivan Saran particularly inspiring. Brian Tracy shared it in his video, and it's a perfect illustration of how dedication, perseverance, and a belief in oneself can lead to incredible outcomes.
Okay, yeah, tell me more. What's Ivan's story?
Well, Ivan immigrated to America with very little to his name, just a cardboard box and a burning desire to succeed. He didn't speak a word of English when he arrived, but he was determined to make his dreams a reality in this new land of opportunity.
Wow, so he came to America not knowing any English at all,
Not a word.
but wanting to succeed.
Exactly, and he knew that English was the key to unlocking his potential.
And what did he do?
Well, he immersed himself in it completely. He started listening to Brian Tracy's audio programs on success and achievement. He devoured books and just absorbed the language like a sponge.
So he didn't just learn English, he learned about success at the same time.
That's right. He was learning about personal development, goal setting, positive thinking, all while mastering a new language.
Wow, so he really maximized his time.
He did, and it paid off.
So tell me, did he succeed?
Oh, he absolutely did. Within a year, his English had improved so much that he landed a sales job.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then by his second year, he was excelling to the point that he launched his own printing brokerage company.
That's amazing.
And by his third year in America, he had already achieved remarkable financial success.
That's so inspiring. Ivan's story is a perfect example of how learning English can open doors and create opportunities.
It really is. And it shows that with hard work, dedication, and the right mindset, anything is possible.
Well, it's a beautiful story. And it highlights those points that we've been discussing, the proactivity, the goal setting, and the win-win mentality. But let's get practical for our listeners. What are some things that people can do starting tomorrow morning to incorporate these habits into their own lives?
Well, that's where Brian Tracy's insights on morning routines come in. He says that how you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows.
Okay, so what are some of the habits that successful people incorporate into their mornings?
Well, one of the most important things is to plan your day the night before.
Okay, so you're not scrambling in the morning trying to figure out what you're going to do.
Exactly. You can wake up feeling calm and focused and ready to tackle the day.
I like that.
Then, when you actually wake up, it's important to set specific goals for the day. This will help you to stay on track and make sure that you're making progress towards your goals.
Right, so instead of saying, I'm going to study English today, you might say, I'm going to spend 20 minutes practicing my English conversation skills.
Exactly. The more specific you are, the better.
And what about distractions?
Ooh, those are a big no-no. Especially first thing in the morning. Brian Tracy says you shouldn't check your phone or email until you've completed your morning routine and started your workday.
That's a tough one. It's so tempting to just check your phone as soon as you wake up.
I know, but it's really important to resist that urge, because when you check your phone first thing in the morning, you're essentially letting other people dictate your agenda for the day.
That's a good point. Okay, so we've got planning the night before, setting specific goals for the day, and avoiding distractions. What else?
Brian Tracy is also a big advocate for incorporating stretching or exercise into your morning routine.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. It gets your blood flowing and wakes you up.
It does, and it sets a positive tone for the day.
It doesn't have to be anything strenuous. Even just a few minutes of stretching can make a difference.
Exactly.
Okay, what about reading?
Brian Tracy recommends reading for at least an hour each morning. Something educational, motivational, or inspirational.
And in the context of learning English, this could be anything from an English news article to a chapter in your favorite book in English, right?
Exactly.
The key is to make it a habit.
Right. Just like with anything else, consistency is key.
And what about meditation?
That's another great habit to incorporate into your morning routine. Meditation can help you to calm your mind, improve your focus, and reduce stress.
I've heard that meditation can be helpful for language learning.
It can, because it helps you to be more present and focused,
Yeah.
which is essential for learning anything new.
Okay, so we've got planning, goal setting, avoiding distractions, exercise, reading, meditation. Is there anything else?
Just one more thing. Brian Tracy says that it's important to spend quality time with your family.
That's lovely.
It is. Starting your day with connection and love is a great way to set a positive tone for the day.
It is. And even if you don't have a family or live in a traditional family setting, I think the underlying principle here is to prioritize those connections that are meaningful to you.
I agree. Whether it's with a loved one, a pet, or even just with yourself, it's important to make time for those connections.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the power of habits to the importance of morning routines. What do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important takeaway is that success is not a destination, it's a journey. It's about making conscious choices each day that align with your values and goals.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
What's one habit our listeners could commit to incorporating into their daily routine to enhance their English fluency starting tomorrow?
That's a great question to reflect on. You know, while you're thinking about that, I'd like to highlight a few more insights from our sources that we haven't touched on yet. They offer some really practical advice on how to make those habits stick and maximize your chances of success in your English learning journey.
All right, let's unlock those extra nuggets of wisdom you mentioned. What else can our listeners do to make those habits stick and really see those positive changes in their English fluency?
Well, one of Brian Tracy's 9 success factors that really resonated with me was education and skill. So In the context of language learning, this translates to actively building your English knowledge, your grammar, your vocabulary pronunciation.
So it's not just about passively, watching movies and listening to music. It's about really actively working to improve those specific skills.
Exactly. It's about taking a proactive approach to learning and investing in yourself as a learner.
Okay, and we talked about networking earlier as a key habit of successful people. How can people specifically use that to improve their English?
Well, I think the most important thing is to find opportunities to connect with other English speakers, both native and non-native. This could be joining conversation groups, attending language exchange events, or connecting with people online through language learning communities.
That sounds great, but I know some people might be intimidated by the idea of speaking with native speakers, especially if they're not confident in their English skills yet.
Oh, I completely understand that it's natural to feel nervous. But it's important to remember that everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language, and native speakers are usually very understanding and patient.
So it's about focusing on communication and connection rather than perfection.
Exactly.
Progress, not perfection.
That's right.
Another success factor we talked about was good work habits.
Yes, having effective work habits is crucial for any kind of success, and language learning is no exception.
So that might look like setting aside dedicated time for English study, creating a consistent study schedule, finding ways to stay organized and motivated.
Exactly. It's about treating your English practice with the same level of seriousness and commitment that you would any other important goal.
And speaking of mindsets, Brian Tracy also talks about the importance of having a positive mental attitude.
Yes, this is so important, especially when it comes to language learning, which can be challenging at times.
There will be moments of frustration, self-doubt, maybe even wanting to give up.
Absolutely, but it's important to remember that those feelings are normal and everyone experiences them. The key is to not let those feelings derail you. It's about developing resilience, perseverance, and a belief in your ability to overcome challenges.
So it's not about avoiding those negative feelings altogether, but it's about learning how to manage them and not let them control you.
Exactly.
And this ties in with the success factor of having a positive image, right?
Yes. Projecting confidence in your English abilities, even if you don't feel 100% fluent yet.
It's about believing in yourself and your ability to communicate.
Exactly. And confidence often comes with practice. The more you use your English, the more confident you'll become.
And remember, everyone's language learning journey is unique.
It is.
Don't compare yourself to others.
That's right. Focus on your own progress and celebrate your successes along the way.
Now, this next success factor always makes me smile. Creativity. How can people be more creative in their English learning?
Well, it's about finding ways to make learning fun and engaging. This could be watching movies or TV shows in English, listening to music, reading interesting articles, or even playing games.
I love that it's about making English a part of your life, not just a subject you study.
Exactly, and it gets back to that idea of immersion that we talked about earlier. The more you surround yourself with English in a way that you enjoy, the more natural it will become.
And remember, even small actions done consistently can lead to significant results.
It's the small habits, the daily practices that ultimately pave the way to mastery.
Now, Brian Tracy also talks about character as a success factor.
Yes, he emphasizes the importance of self-discipline, honesty, and integrity.
And how do those qualities relate to language learning?
Well, I think it's about being accountable to yourself and your goals. It's about setting realistic expectations and being honest about your progress. And it's about being persistent and not giving up, even when things get tough.
So it's about showing up for yourself even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly.
Now, finally, Brian Tracy talks about luck as a success factor.
Yes. But he makes it clear that luck isn't just about random chance. It's about putting yourself in a position to be lucky.
It's about creating opportunities and being prepared to seize them when they arise.
Exactly. And I think that's a really empowering message. It means that we're not just victims of circumstance. We have the power to shape our own destiny.
And when it comes to language learning, that means taking action, being proactive, and seeking out those opportunities to practice and improve.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the daily habits of successful people, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Success is not something that happens overnight. It's a journey that requires effort, dedication, and a willingness to learn and grow.
And it's a journey that's worth taking. So keep learning, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself.
Yeah, we're here to support you every step of the way. Thanks for joining us on another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.